Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in the Relief Factor studio, joined by Dr. Michael Oren, who is back in the States. I erroneously posted on X this morning I was going to talk to him from Israel, but I'm glad he gets up early. Dr. Oren, I want one focus today on the North because heavy bombardments yesterday and Yoav Gallant said we're turning our attention to the North. Is a full-scale offensive coming?
I hope so. I hope so. You know,
hope is not a strategy. Do they have a strategy?
Well, let me put it more emphatically. It's this. Right now, there's no alternative, and I'll explain why there's no alternative. It's not just that there's 100,000 Israelis who've been rendered homeless. The entire north is uninhabitable. Dozens of people have been killed and wounded. It's that you can't go back to the status quo ante of October 6th. On October 6th, if you were living in one of the many Israeli communities along the northern border, you could stick your finger through the fence, and I wouldn't recommend you do this. And you could touch Hezbollah. They were right there. Now, right, no one is going to go back to those communities if Hezbollah is sitting on the fence, because now we know what terrorists can do when they're sitting on the other side of the fence. All right, they'll break through the fence and they'll come and behead you and burn you and rape your wife and drag your children into captivity. No one's going to do that. So if Israel wants to maintain or regain, rather, its territorial integrity, its sovereignty, you have no choice. And
now, Dr. Oren, I like to remind my audience, you're a tank guy. You were in the IDF in a tank. Weren't you a tanker?
I wish. I hate tanks. I was a paratrooper.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I have many jumps to my credit, though. I must say I never jumped. I was always pushed out.
All right, so you're a paratrooper. My question is, if Israel goes on the offensive, do they have to go all the way to Beirut in order to make sure the missiles can't fire from it? Do they have to go to Bekaa? Do they have to go maybe into Syria? Because I'm glad Hamas did not have precision ballistic missiles, or they would have used them. But they're all over Lebanon.
Oh, there's no. We're talking the IDF estimate from rocket fire just from Lebanon is as much as 6,000 rockets a day. Right? We're talking about. Remember, on April 14th, Iran fired 350 projectiles at us. We're talking about many times that. That's just Lebanon. It's not the Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq. It's not the Houthi rebels in Yemen, and it's not Iran itself. And so we're talking about a war of a massive magnitude, much bigger than anything we experienced in Gaza. We're talking about a national war. But I'm saying this not with any glee. I'm telling you, we don't see any choice right now.
Yeah, no alternative. I agree.
Because Hezbollah is engaging us in the ultimate Israeli nightmare, which is a war of attrition. All right? Israel can't win a war of attrition, and it's a creeping war of attrition, Hugh. Every day, the rockets grow in number. They grow in terms of their range. They go further south, further west toward major cities like Haifa. And that's an existential threat to the state of Israel. And it's interesting. Here's an interesting statistic that the great majority of the people who are out there protesting to end the war in Gaza are in favor of pursuing the war against Hezbollah because they know there's no choice.
So, Dr. Oren, first, I apologize on behalf of American media. I don't work for ABC. I've appeared on ABC often. I don't work for them. They did not mention Hersh Goldberg, Paulin, or the other 5 hostages who were executed 10 days ago on the debate Wednesday night, nor did they ask about Iran's nuclear weapon, nor did they ask about the other Americans murdered by Hamas on 10. It was a disaster of a debate, a debacle for American media. I want to ask you, do you think if Israel goes into Lebanon and Iran respond, will the American carriers get involved?
Well, one of those carriers is steaming home as we speak, the Roosevelt.
Okay.
So it's not getting involved.
So you're down to the Lincoln.
So they're down to Lincoln. And yes, they will get involved. They get involved in a defensive way, just as they did on April 14th, taking down the rockets. The big question will be, what happens if, and I say this with a big if and a great sense of regret, one of those rockets hits the Lincoln? What will be America's response? And that is a scenario that is not beyond the imagination by any means. Those of us who are old enough to remember the Sheffield in 1982 in the Falklands War, that takes one rocket. And what will be America's response? Will America then respond offensively and not just defensively?
I have family on the Lincoln, so I can't answer that, Michael. I know what my response would be. I know what my response would be, but no one will listen to me. There are 5,000 people on the Lincoln. But then again, 5,000 people were killed or wounded on 10/7, and this media has forgotten it. I don't think we would forget 5,000 people on the link. I think it would be war with Iran. It better be war with Iran.
But that's precisely what the administration is afraid of. That is the scenario I've just told you is their nightmare scenario. Especially specifically before the election. So there you have it. And it's their trigger. I think it's kind of risible that people in the administration said they're afraid of getting dragged into a regional war. But we've been in a regional war since October 7th.
Yeah, we are.
And America is already in it. The question is, you could look at this as an immense opportunity. I'm going to say something very controversial. Brace yourself. Right? Israel doesn't have strategic bombers. We don't have B-52s, B-1s, B-2s, right? We have these wonderful little things called F-15s, F-16s, F-35s, which are wonderful airplanes, but they're small, and they have limited range and very limited payloads. America has these bombers. America can do away with Iran and Iran's nuclear program in a matter of hours from 50,000 feet, and nobody can touch it.
Dr. Michael Oren, I hope they are listening to you in D.C. Dr. Michael Oren. Dr. Michael Oren. Because the Iranians are trying to kill Americans every day, but if they succeed, those bombers ought to be in the air within 1 minute. Thank you for talking to me. I'll be right back, America. Stay tuned.